This is Mags on Media, and now the world of branding this week. Now, overcrowding and a lack of funding often puts a lot of pressure on animal shelters, and this in turn leads to thousands of cats and dogs having to be euthanized each year. The design agency Newfound Form has developed a campaign to address the sad problem under the name Heroes Adopt Animals. The Picture Tree production house executed the ad on a pro bono basis. We'll put the ad on our Facebook page and you can let us know if you think the message comes across. And on the topic of Facebook, the social platform has celebrated another big milestone. 100 million people now make use of the platform every month across the continent. Research indicating that more than 80% of those visitors come to the site via mobile devices. Now, the well-known exclusive books brand has undergone a major overhaul, which has been revealed at its new concept store in Rosebank here in Johannesburg. The design agency Switch was responsible for the new look, and I sat down this week with director Larry Schiller, who talked us through the thinking. Larry Schiller from Switch. We're sitting in this wonderfully rebranded exclusive bookstore in Rosebank in Johannesburg. What's changed here?
Jeremy, everything. From the master brand itself, and you're talking about a brand that is over 60 years old, that we've rebranded, to the store design, to the whole retail concept and the offering. Everything's new, everything has been reinvented.
Why was there a need to do that? I mean, I guess any 60-year-old brand needs a do-over, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I think this brand more than any needed a do-over. The new owners have looked to reinvent the brand. They've looked to create a space that becomes a centre of the community, a place where people want to visit for not only the book experience, but for a lifestyle experience.
Well, let's talk a little bit about that, the relationship, and I think I'm going to tip over on my beanbag at some point. Just be careful, we're two men of middle age here, we don't want to hurt our backs. I think that customer relationship between, or the experience that you have with the bookstore has changed. There's also that threat of technology all the time. You know, do I go onto my tablet or do I actually go in for that tactile experience of owning the book? How do you think that relationship with the customer has changed?
I think the relationship has changed certainly because of technology, but I think what the new owners look to do with exclusive books is actually strengthen the relationship and take it back to a time where the tactile nature is recognized. We're sitting in a bookstore, you can't mistake the smell of new books. And I think
is that deliberate? In fact, you notice that when you walk in. I mean, you're not piping in new book smell here, are you? Or maybe you are.
Yeah. No, they definitely have new books.
Yeah.
But I think the tactile nature of books will always be there. I think that e-tablet reading is a reality of life, but I really think that deep reading and deep understanding comes from books, hard copy books.
So how do you translate the need for tactility into a rebrand? What was the broad thinking behind that?
So the identity itself is based loosely on the idea of a colophon. If you look in the front lead pages of any book, there is usually a mark which in the old days would signify who the publisher, the writer, or the notes around the book. A colophon basically is shorthand for the notes of the book. And our identity is based loosely on the idea of a colophon. The new E that sits within the B. The B looks like two spines of a book on their side, so we're always about books, but the identity allows us to live within that experience.
I want you to flesh out for me a little bit more about people coming into the store and staying in the store. Just before we started recording our conversation, it was really wonderful to see a young 10 or 11-year-old kid who fitted onto the beanbag, might I say, a little easier than you did, just kicking back, lying back and reading a book. I'm assuming that's what is needed these days with bookstores. It doesn't matter if they stay here the whole day.
I think we want people to stay in our bookstores. I think the longer they're in the bookshop, the more the likelihood is that they'll take something away with them. But if they just are here to browse, that's fine.
When it comes to a rebrand like this, what is the Switch agency most proud of?
I think we're most proud of the master brand. I think we've done a great job with the master brand, not only in its primary form, but in the ability of the brand to be able to live across many different book categories And it's going to be a very versatile brand that basically unfolds as the story.
I don't understand that. So you've got the mother brand living across categories. In what respect? What do you
So, for example, when we come to the coffee shop, we've already extended it into the in-store coffee shop. It's called EB Cafe.
Yeah.
The brand already extends through there, and it's taken through into the packaging. When we get to children's books,
hang on. So the mother brand itself, that'll be reflected on what the on the collateral from
absolutely
the coffee shop.
collateral brand in the coffee shop. The mother brand is reflected. And when we get to deal with, for example, children's books, the E inside of the B could be made up of crayons, for example. If we have a summer promotion, we could make it up out of sandals, flip-flops.
And just finally, what's the long-term intention of this brand change?
The long-term intention of the brand change is to keep it fresh. Every store will be designed in sympathy of its community and its environment, and no single store will be the same as we go ahead.
Explain that to me. Why would that be important? Because these days in retail, you know, the homogeneous feel has become so important. This is a 360-degree turn, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think what we're looking for is a store that's designed in sympathy of its surroundings. Subtly, sometimes not so subtly. An airport store will be a different environment. A store down in Cape Town will be a different environment. A store in a smaller town might be a different environment.
And finally, you're going to get up off the beanbag before me, or should we do it together?
What we could do is hold hands and lift each other off the beanbags.
I believe there's a physiotherapist on speed dial. Larry Schiller, thank you very much.
Thanks very much.
This is Mags on Media. Coming up, a new brand campaign for a mobile company. It goes viral. And the big winners from the recent Most Awards for media companies and media agencies.